Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. I'm Craig Haley, along with co-host Gary Reasons. Gary, we are in Week 12, the final full week of the regular season. How you doing today?
Oh, it's great here. I'm still in Washington. Just finished up our on-campus visit, which we'll get to in just a minute, yesterday. And here it is early morning. And boy, I tell you, there's a full week of preparation here for college football all over the FCS. And we're going to dive right into it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in FCS college football. Gary, our episode, as you know, is produced by Seth Biley and Graham Bell. You can find all our coverage on theanalyst.com. And of course, FCS Delivered is on many podcast platforms. There's Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. And of course, you might be watching right now on our YouTube channel. Just search for FCS Delivered. And it's a great way to watch all the content of Gary's FCS National Awards on campus visits. Now, Gary, Week 11 last weekend. Two more teams made their way into the FCS playoff field. South Dakota State and Missouri Valley. Nichols down in the Southland. They joined Furman a week earlier from the Southern Conference. We have three. What do you think of those first three?
Yeah, I think that that's tremendous, and both of them, went in pretty handily. South Dakota State, we've seen them all season long, and they continue to be at the top of the polls and just playing tremendous football. And Nichols, congratulations to them. They were, kind of trying to find themselves, I think, early on in the season, and they finally did their midstream. And I think they finishing out the conference schedule in a very, very strong way. Congratulations to them to getting the Southland Conference bid.
Well, Nichols, they played an amazing out-of-conference schedule, including TCU, two FBS games, Sacramento State. So, they really set themselves up to do well in the Southland Conference. Now, our FedEx Ground FCS National Game of the Week, well, that was a kind of a rout. UT Martin in the Big South OVC defeated Southeast Missouri 41-14. Kincaid Dent, the quarterback for UT Martin, and Narkel LaFleur, one of their running backs, just had big games. UT Martin is really looking strong going into their final game at Sanford. Gary, they're 8-2.
Yeah, I think they are. They're playing very well, Craig. And when you play consistent football throughout the season, I think they are actually still peaking. They're a very good, very balanced football team, and that's what coaches like to see. And that's exactly what we're seeing from UT Martin right now.
Well, if they don't win the automatic bid in the Big South OVC, they probably have done enough to win an at-large bid into the playoffs. 8-2, they're playing Sanford. Now, we'll find out where they stand this coming weekend. Of course, the 24-team FCS playoff pairings will be announced on Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. There's an ESPNU selection show. There's a lot to be determined before then with only the three bids in. And of course, you look at the MEAC champion still needs to be decided for the Celebration Bowl, the SWAC West division winner for the SWAC championship game. There's a lot that's going on. That's what I want to kind of talk about today, Gary, is some of the conference scenarios that stand out this weekend. And there's kind of a de facto title game in the Big Sky. What do you think of that matchup, Gary?
Well, go figure. Montana State. That ball game is, just looming large always, and it certainly is. The team that wins that one's gonna kind of be the leader up right there. You talk about the Big Sky. It's one of the premier conferences in all of FCS football, and Montana State. I tell you, I think they're hot, Craig. I think that team, you just got to watch them because they've won the last 5 out of 6 meetings in that matchup. And as you talked about, it is kind of the de facto title game. So I think this is going to be a great matchup, and it's one of those that just seems like it's happening year after year.
They both have tremendous stadiums and game atmospheres. This one is at Washington Grizzly Stadium, kind of known as the Mecca of FCS college football. It's going to be a great environment on Saturday. These two teams slugging it out. Yes, for the automatic bid out of the Big Sky, and also an outright championship in the Big Sky. So just a great game. Now there's another one, the CAA football, Gary, 4-way tie going into the final week. It's been paired from 5 a week ago. Richmond knocked out Elon from being in the mix. Villanova at Delaware. Those are two of the teams. Richmond's or is at William and Mary. Albany is in the mix at they're hosting Monmouth. Whew, what do you think of this scenario going into the final Saturday?
I still try to use a calculator to figure things out, and this one doesn't. All this stuff in the CAA just doesn't match up to me. I don't know who's going to be at the end, depending on who does what. We're just have to wait till the end. But I think these games set up are just going to be fun to watch, and I think as the weekend goes on, you're going to see what comes out of here. I went to Albany, and and I think the coach Gattuso is going to have his team prepared for this one against Monmouth, and hopefully, if they play a good solid effort, they're going to get that done. Richmond, obviously, early on in the year, they took it on the chin from Morgan State, and now they're in it in possibility to have an opportunity to win a championship. So this is a big weekend for the CAA, and it's going to be fun to watch.
You may need that calculator at the end there. It may come down to point differential, to decide the tiebreaker for the automatic bid. I think Villanova, Delaware, Albany, they're probably guaranteed at least an at-large if they don't win the outright bid. Richmond probably has to win this game at William and Mary just because of their strength of schedule early on. We'll see, but I tell you what, that Villanova-Delaware game is phenomenal because they're playing head-to-head to at least be in the mix for a share of the title. Now, we mentioned the Big Sky earlier, Gary. There are two others that we want to talk about that are kind of head-to-head for all the marbles. United Athletic Conference. Now, Austin Peay has already clinched a share of the title, but they're hosting Central Arkansas as far as the automatic bid to the playoffs is out of this conference. I like these head-to-head matchups. It works out great on the final Saturday, Gary.
And it's unique, Craig. I visited both campuses this year on our on-campus visits, and love the Stripes version of this year's Central Arkansas team and what they're doing. Austin Peay, that team, both of these teams, I was really impressed with. And to me, it's going to be a fun game to watch. And I think that there's a good opportunity here. I'm just thinking that Austin Peay, Craig, in this one, I think they're just going to play a lot better at home. And they do, and I think that this one might go their way. They've been really, really focused, and I like them in this ball game.
Scotty Walden's a terrific coach. I'm not going to give away my pick yet for the pick'em segment in the end, Gary. We'll wait for that one. Now, there's another one that's head-to-head for a conference bid, and I kind of want to ask you about this scenario. It's in the Northeast Conference. Duquesne was sort of like an afterthought that they were going to clinch at home last week by hosting Stonehill, and they were upset. 33-28, Stonehill scored in the final minute. Now Duquesne has to go on the road and win at Merrimack. Merrimack's eligible for the title, not just the title, but a playoff bid for the first time. They can go to the playoffs. They're hosting Duquesne, and now the winner, a team like Duquesne that really was probably looking ahead and got caught. How did they rebound emotionally when you've had such a shocking defeat, and now you're on the road trying to play for your playoff life?
When you lose a game like they did last week, Craig, and just tastes bad, feels bad. You just don't have an opportunity to get out on the field fast enough. So they're wanting to sprint to Saturday for them to play that football game. They want to make it right. They want to ensure their end of season opportunity to play. So I think that they're going to come out with a lot of energy, with a lot of speed, with a lot of power, with a lot of determination. And it's going to be a tough ball game there. But I think the Duquesne is going to get that energy turned around in a positive way. I look to them to get that energy enough to get a W here. But it is a tough thing to kind of turn that around, as you talk about. But I think they're going to get it done.
Gary, I love your insight that you want to sprint to the next game because you don't want it weighing on your mind all week long. It does, obviously, but you wish you didn't have that. I love that idea with the Dukes. Now, there's three other conference bids that'll go out to an automatic winner. The Big South OVC. It could be UT Martin unless Gardner-Webb wins its game. They're hosting Charleston Southern. They'll probably win that Gardner-Webb and win that bid in the first-year combo conference. Drake will get in with either a win over Butler or a Davidson loss this week. That's in the Pioneer Football League. And in the Patriot League, it's probably going to be Lafayette. Well, it could be Holy Cross as well. Lafayette is playing its rival, Lehigh. They probably will win that. But Holy Cross is in the mix as well for this automatic bid out of the Patriot League. Now, those are the 7 more automatic. There'll be 14 more at-large bids that go out with the selection committee. Kent Haslam, we had on last week. He's the chair of the committee, leading the way this weekend in Indianapolis as they select the pairings and put them together. Now, Gary, I got thinking this week with all the FCS playoff scenarios. I'm going to talk about when you played at Northwestern State. It was sort of the infancy of FCS college football. You played from 1980 to 83. The FCS, then it was known as the Division I AA, started in 1978, much smaller than it is today. You were a 3-time All-American on that level. Just want to get your feeling because the playoffs were much smaller. Your best year was 1980 team-wise. You guys were number 8 finish in the nation, but only 4 playoff teams that year, so you didn't go to the postseason. Just kind of talk about the scenario back then and whether players had a feeling of the bigger picture in FCS.
Yeah, Craig, the bigger picture really was just laid out by our coaches and really is talking about, how we could get in. At that time, Northwestern State was participating as an independent university. We weren't affiliated with any conference. So that was a lot of schools back then as the FCS/1AA was first getting started, as you talked about, 78. And it really just kind of picked up. And now that we have all of these conferences, we got 15 conferences across the country and 13 leagues, and it's a big show. And we have an opportunity now to place teams there. But way back when, it just wasn't as clear as to who was going to get in. You could get an at-large bid, and that's what we looked at as an independent. Even though we went 8-3, and we had a tremendous football team, and some NFL legends and guys that were playing on my team with me were part of that. But we just didn't have the numbers or really the look of any kind of a committee to get in there. That was at the early days. So to now, it has really turned into, I think, one of the premier things in sports for the FCS to have this end of season bracketed tournament that we get into to determine a national champion. And I just love it. So it has grown to where it is today. And I think it is in a very, very good spot in the FCS.
I would have put the Demons in the field back then, Gary.
I think you should have, Craig. I wanted you on the panel.
Well, I tell you, it really, the playoffs, as you mentioned, is sort of the pride of the FCS level 24-team tournament that lasts, for a while leading up to Frisco. So it's just great, as you mentioned, and it's really the pride of the FCS. Now we're going to take a break here from FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground, and we will be right back.
Rehearsals for the school play were really coming along.
Bigger smile, Mr. Squirrel?
Until a custodian accidentally threw away the costumes.
Oh no.
Everyone was rattled. Miss Garrity forgot how to play. And the Queen of the Hedgehogs almost quit.
Find a new queen!
But replacement costumes were shipped with FedEx. And with added peace of mind from picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. I'm Craig Haley along with Gary Reasons. We're in segment 2, and that's always the FedEx Ground FCS National Awards for 4 players and a team. And Gary makes his visit each week on campus to visit one of those winners. Gary, who were some of our Week 11 winners this week?
Well, we'll take a look at the offensive side of the ball there. We're going to talk about Demir Miller, wide receiver from Monmouth, who he set a school record, Craig, of 337 receiving yards. And that's the second most in CAA history in their 31-24 loss to New Hampshire last week. And he actually caught 11 passes, including a 63-yarder and a 75-yarder for touchdowns, while also producing 4 first downs. So our National Offensive Player of the Week is Demir Miller, a wide receiver from Monmouth.
Well, our FedEx Ground FCS National Defensive Player of the Year, we're very familiar with him. Weber State linebacker Winston Reed. He led the way in an upset of number 4 Idaho. He had 17 tackles the most by a Wildcats player in 9 years. 7 of them were solos, 1.5 for tackles for loss. He forced a fumble in the fourth quarter while they were protecting the lead, and a teammate recovered it, so that was key. 2 quarterback hurries, a pass breakup. Just a dominating effort by Winston Reed, our national defensive player of the week.
Well, our national special teams player of the week is Richard McCollum. He's a place kicker from Western Carolina in their 58-7 win over ETSU. He scored a career high 16 points in that ball game, which is tied for second most by an FCS kicker this season. And he went 3 of 3 on field goals, and he was 7 of 7 on PATs. You know, he upped his points total for his career points to 294, and that is 8 shy of a Western Carolina record. So had a great ball game. Richard McCollum did for Western Carolina, and he's our FCS National Special Teams Player of the Week.
You know, Gary, the reason Davidson is not in control of fourth straight bid to the FCS playoffs is because they were upset last week. Morehead State, 47-17 in the Pioneer Football League, and Bryce Patterson, the Morehead State quarterback, led the way. He had 6 touchdown passes in his first career start. They all went for 25 yards or more. He finished 10 of 16 for 240 yards. His passer rating was off the charts, over 312. Bryce Patterson of Morehead State led the way as the National Freshman of the Week.
Well, you know, five of his completed passes were for touchdowns. That's pretty cool. Hey, for our national team of the week, which is really where I'm at now, I'm in Washington, D.C., and we went to Howard University because of their 50-20 win over then number 7, North Carolina Central. And that ended a 10-game losing streak in that series, and it prevented NCCU to kind of wrapping up the MEAC Celebration Bowl bid. So quarterback Quinton Williams, he had 292 yards of total offense, including 4 total touchdowns. And defensive end Darrian Brokenburr, he had a big game also back in the backfield. And I had a nice visit to Howard University. I had never been here before, and it was tremendous. It is a very, very, I call it a boutique campus. It's not very large, but it is there, and it's tremendous. The facilities are just great for these players to aspire into, and they also have a lot of tradition on their campus. They've had some championships, and they've had some players come out of Howard University that are just tremendous, and the legacy of football that they have is pretty good. This is Greenfield, and it is a great place to play. They practice on that field, and the Bison are a team, I think, that are just going to kind of continue to improve and get well down the road. Their coaching staff has done a great job, I think, of preparing this team to come out every single week to compete and do a very, very nice job in that area. So I think when this coach Larry Scott is all said and done for this season, he's going to look back at what he's done with this group and done very well. Well, with that win, this game puts them into an opportunity to play this week against very competent Morgan State team, oddly a team that we went to the very first week of the season to talk about as the national team of the week also. That's a head-up matchup that they're going to have, but we wanted to go out and share with this team about being our national our national special team, not special team, but our national team of the week. And here's our presentation of the team.
Present the national team of the week to the Howard Bison. Go Bison!
Well, their quarterback there, and then Brokenburr, their defensive end. It's pretty good to talk to those guys. Had a lot of fun with them. Larry Scott, thank you for allowing us to come and visit with your team, and Derek, their sports information director, did a nice job of just setting things up. So very nice, warm welcome here, and you can see I'm still in the little hotel room that I'm traveling in, staying in. But it's always fun to get out, and this is our 11th week, Craig. We got one more stop next week, so who and where are we going to go? I don't know yet, but we're going to figure it out there after this slate of games on Saturday.
Well, Howard, was one of the more remarkable wins of the season. I mean, 50-20 over North Carolina Central, which was 7th ranked at the time. And the Bison had lost 10 straight to North Carolina Central. So you're right. They control the destiny here for going to the Celebration Bowl, which would be the first time. North Carolina Central's now perhaps in a mix for an at-large bid to the playoffs, which kind of takes a spot away from other teams. It's just a great scenario in the MEAC this year that so much has happened week to week. So it's great to see your video for the FCS National Awards on campus, Howard University. Congratulations. Gary, we're going to take one more break from FCS Delivered, and then we will be back after this.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Do you like what you're hearing on FCS Delivered today? For more national FCS coverage, please go to theanalyst.com throughout the week. We're the home for the FCS Top 25 Media Poll and the weekly and season-ending FCS National Awards, presented by FedEx Ground. We also take you across FCS Nation with stories, predictions, and an inside look. The FCS coverage can be found at theanalyst.com. Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. Craig Haley along with Gary Reasons, fresh off his trip to Howard University. Gary, we've been talking about FCS playoff scenarios, the Celebration Bowl, the FCS National Awards on campus. Do want to mention the Stats Reform FCS Top 25 poll. South Dakota State, obviously number 1, 24 straight wins. Furman is number 2. And then the big matchup in the Big Sky, Montana number 3, Montana State number 4. Number 5 is South Dakota, which has a win, of course, over North Dakota State. But Gary, North Dakota State, the Bison are back in the top 10, number 9. The world is round, it's not just flat. The Bison are back in the top 10. What do you think of this week's poll?
Well, I think we've got it pretty right. I think it's where it needs to be. When you look at it in total, kind of teams have moved up, they moved down, and I think correctly for the most part. And I think the top 5 here that we're talking about, they're certainly the ones to look at.
All right, so let's talk about some of the games ahead this week. Week 12 of the regular season, the final full week of the regular season. The SWAC has a couple extra games. Let's start in the Ivy League, which doesn't have a team go to the postseason, but they have a big finish every year. And this year, Harvard-Yale, the game kind of stands out because Harvard has already clinched a tie for the title. Yale can move into a share of it as well. Dartmouth's alive. But what do you think of Harvard-Yale going into the 139th renewal of the game?
It's a fun game. It's a fun matchup, Craig, and it's one that, this conference, they certainly look to as kind of a marker game, I think, as far as who's going to be on top. I like Harvard in this one. I think that they're going to play well. They're going to go on the road, and I think that they're going to take care of business. But it's going to be a fun game to watch. And what do you think, Craig?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Yale at home, forging a tie. Jalen Craig came in for Harvard the last couple of weeks at quarterback. He's only a sophomore. He was Ivy League Player of the Week and had a great performance last week against Penn. But I'm going to say Yale with its experience, including quarterback Nolan Grooms. I say they get it done this week and create a tie atop the Ivy League. Now, we mentioned earlier Duquesne at Merrimack. You did allude to picking Duquesne. Why do you feel that's going to happen in the NEC?
I think they're just going to have a little bit more to play for. I think they're a football team that they feel like they are poised for a little bit of a deeper run here, and I think the Duquesne gets it done.
It's also maybe like a battle for Offensive Player of the Year in the NEC. Darius Parantes, the quarterback of Duquesne, versus the rushing leader in the NEC, Merrimack's Tyven Edmonds Jr. I'm going to go Merrimack at home. They're only 5-5. They're 4-2 in conference. They were in this scenario last year for the title in the NEC and lost on the last day to St. Francis. This year, they're back in it and eligible for a playoff bid. I'm going to go with Merrimack in this one. CAA, Gary, we talked about that 4-team tie atop the conference standings. The big one, I would say, is Villanova at Delaware, the Battle of the Blue, because one of them will win and become at least a share of the title. What do you like in Villanova, Delaware?
Well, I'm going to say this. Nova, they've got 8 wins at Delaware. Make it number 9. I'm going to go Nova in this one, man. I think they get it done on the road against them. So I happen to go with that. Go that way, Craig. Nova.
That's an astounding number that you mentioned, Gary. 8 straight wins on the road at Delaware for the Wildcats. I could go either way on this one. I think Villanova is maybe a little healthier at this point of the year, but I'm just going to go with Delaware at home. That 8 times in a row losing at home to Villanova has to be a big factor this week to them. Great game, though. Now, we also talked United Athletic Conference, Central Arkansas at Austin Peay. A couple of our stops this year for FCS National Awards on campus. I know who you're picking. You mentioned it earlier. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, Austin Peay, I think they've got it, going to get it done, and, UCA there, that's their first outside top 25, look at this. And, quarterbacks, Will McIlvain, he's got 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And, for Austin Peay, Mike DeLillo has 27 touchdowns. And, this is an opportunity here, I think, for Austin Peay to kind of, with Coach Waldron to kind of solidify where they're going and what they're doing in this conference and really go beyond. This is something that really they're going to take to heart. I just like the Govs in this one to get the W.
They're definitely the more consistent team at this point of the year, but I'm going to go with the Bears on the road, kind of riding the motivation of that Hail Mary win last week against Eastern Kentucky to actually stay alive for this scenario. So I'll go Central Arkansas on this one. Now, in the Missouri Valley Conference, where there's big games every week, well, here's one, North Dakota State at UNI. UNI has lost 9 straight times to the Bison, but they're a quality team. It's hard to imagine they lose 9 straight to anybody. If they get in, if they win, they're going to get into the playoffs. Who do you like in this one, Gary?
I think that the Bison are riding the ship at the right time. I think they're playing better football. I think they're more balanced of what they would normally be as a football team that we're used to seeing. They've had a few stumbles along the road over the course of the season, which is indicated in their 3 losses this year. But I think that North Dakota State is probably going to get the best of Northern Iowa on the road here, and it's going to possibly give them another bid into the postseason.
Well, the Bison still control time of possession all the time. They're number 5 in the nation in that category. Cam Miller's really come on strong, under center. I agree. They're riding the ship. They're not fully there, but I'm going to go with you. The Bison, it's always hard to pick against them to get it done at UNI. Now that brings us to our FedEx Ground National Game of the Week, Gary. It's in the Big Sky for all the marbles. It's the Brawl of the Wild, Grizz Cat, Cat Grizz. Montana State, number 4 at number 3, Montana. Ooh, this means everything. The automatic bid to the playoffs, also an outright conference championship in the Big Sky. Kind of break down this game for us, Gary.
Well, if you got one bucket of popcorn and you're sitting down to watch one game this week, this is the one you want to watch because this is going to be one that's going to be a slugfest. But I do think that Montana, because of their defense and what they've been able to do, I think they're going to play well at home. Montana is number 1 in the Big Sky in total defense, both for rushing and scoring defense. So I think that that's going to get them over the hump here. This is going to be one whale of a game, Craig, but I like Montana in this one.
Yeah, that's a great matchup individually. The rushing offense of Montana State versus the rushing defense of Montana. Montana's, peaking. They've come on strong since that rough start in September, just not quite gelling yet. I'm going to go Montana State. It's tough to win on the road at Washington Grizzly. Montana State's done it before. I think they're a little bit better, but, Montana can prove me wrong in this one because they're really coming on strong. But either way, it's a great game. Hopefully it comes down to the end. Certainly worthy of being the FCS National Game of the Week, Gary. Now, Gary, there's so many scenarios here in Week 12. Conference championships, rivalry games, probably some upsets along the way. This has got to be the biggest week of the season in my eyes, Gary.
It's going to be a lot of fun. This is where we're going to learn everything. And then Sunday, get up in the morning and kind of learn where everybody's going to play in the FCS playoff bracket from the committee and what they select. So good luck to the committee this weekend and making those picks and all those things go to correctly. Hopefully you get maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep along the way. I know it's going to be tough for those guys, but should be fun to watch come Sunday.
They won't be sleeping too much because there's going to be angry fans out there when their team is not in the field, but they do a good job of adhering to what the criteria is for selecting the playoffs. That brings an end here to FCS Delivered. I'd like to thank FedEx Ground, Stats Perform. Obviously, Seth Biley and Graham Bell are producers. You can find all our coverage on theanalyst.com. Gary, I hope you enjoy the weekend. I hope the games are great. I know they will be, actually. Are you looking forward to it?
I'm going to be multi-screened again, Craig. That's my motive. Here I watch a lot of football, and Saturday's a lot of fun. And for me, it's going to be one of those weekends.
Well, you have some travel to do to get back to those TV screens. So, Gary, we wish you safe travels. We thank our listeners and viewers for tuning in this week to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. We will see you next week.